Hi, my name is Ami Maikoski, and I am a quantum catalyst and leadership field architect. So excited to share a soulful conversation with you today.
Sunshine, good to see you again. Had to walk out to let you back in. Stuck in a storm of a relationship. Lost my fire. Oh, and I forgot about me for way too long. But it's rolled on. Now there ain't no shade around here.
The founder of Women Successful Living and your Say Yes to Your Life coach, author, speaker, and retreat facilitator, which, by the way, you need to be like and subscribing below because we have our 10th annual retreat coming up in September and you do not want to miss out. But I am so excited to share with you guys today. Some of you have heard me talk about this great organization I'm in, an amazing mastermind with the Moxie Mindset. Jeremy Howell, shout out to Jeremy for putting us all together. But my guest is one of the amazing ladies that I've met in the group. And as you heard her in the induction, her name is Ami Maikoski. She is a quantum catalyst, transformational facilitator, and speaker who is devoted to awakening human potential. She guides visionary leaders through self mastery, energetic alignment, and embodied truth, where frequency meets action, purpose becomes profitable, and effortless creation births freedom, fulfillment, flow, and living a legacy for individuals, organizations, and humanity worldwide. I'm so excited to share her with you today. Welcome to the show, Ami.
Thank you so much, Pearl. I am super excited to be here and honored to be in your powerful presence.
This is going to be so much fun. So, I share with Ami already, everybody, that we do not have questions pre-done. I like our conversations to be authentic. Wherever they go, they go. But I do have one question. If Amy's watched the show, she may know already. So here we go. Ami, will you introduce us to little Ami? Will you introduce us to what she was like when she was little? What were her aspirations and what does she want to do when she grew up? And tell us how it correlates to what she does today.
Oh my goodness, how fun. Little Amy is such a powerful space in my world, even currently. It was only when I included her in this element of my human experience that I quantum leaped into my truth. And so little Amy loves nature. She absolutely adores being outside, connected to, at that time, she didn't understand it as source, but source. And I loved climbing trees. I made forts outside. I looked at all of the little things, the ants, the bugs, the bees, the leaves as they grew. I was raised in Kalamazoo, Michigan, and also had a lot of my life in Mount Clemens, Michigan, over in the Detroit area. So Michigan is absolutely beautiful in nature, and I absorbed every ounce I could of it. My favorite thing to do when I was a little girl was to use bicycles because I was so short that I couldn't reach the very first branch on a tree. So I would climb up these bicycles and I would climb trees to the very top branch and wait and flow with the wind and the breeze and watch what's going on in the neighborhoods, feel all of the most beautiful comfort, security, and peace in my heart up in that space with no fear. It was just the most magnificent thing that I still to this day grab onto. And so as a child, I loved the human body. I thought it was a magnificent thing. And for a long time wanted to be a doctor. Went to medical school and ended up running myself kind of into the ground with all of my expectations in the world that I wanted to do. And being the third oldest of 10 children, college was not promised. And so I ended up joining the military in the medical field and did magnificent things there. And in the understanding of the human body, the mind was always something that my father, who is a math and science teacher for 30 years of his professional career, always intrigued me as to the power of the mind. And so as I went through life and did all of the adventures that we all do, the mountains, the valleys, the dark sides, the turnarounds, the loopholes, the dead ends, all the great stuff, I realized that that power of the mind was where the answers are. And that is why I am where I am now. I left corporate America doing amazing things. I left the military from an injury, and now I simply get to love humanity, bringing them home to their truth through their own activated genius. And here I am today.
I love it. We get to come into our own activated genius. I think that's so cool. I think that's going to be our tagline for your podcast today. So when our editors come back and watch it, we already told them what to do. I love the what you shared with the little girl. We have some things in common, you know. I too was short, couldn't climb trees, so I was a bicycle. My bicycle is what I did. Um, although it took a little while because I had trouble reaching the pedals, so I had a little help there. No matter how low they put the seat, I still couldn't reach the pedals. It was so frustrating. And then, you know, being connected with the mind, I didn't realize it when I was growing up, how much it meant to me. Because, I mean, early on, and I think I've shared this on my show before, I used to babysit for my soccer coach, and so in my soccer, my I was a junior when we had started our soccer team at the high school. So at the end of the season, of course, they're giving out letters, and I was like the only one who was a junior and the only one who did not get a letter. So I looked at my
Mm.
coach, who was I also babysat for, and I was like, "Hey, coach, like, why didn't I get a letter? Like, what's the deal?" And it's like, "Oh, because you're just a junior." I'm like, "Oh, well, I'm not just a junior. I'm also somebody who believes that what you've done is wrong. So I'm out and I'm not babysitting or playing for you next year." So I literally,
Woo!
and that was like, I think I was 15 and a half years old, 16 years old, something around that time. I was like, but looking back, I realized how much, you know, my mindset was, I was already seeing that. And like it was that people pleaser, that being sage, but I still was struggling with people pleasing. But I love that you said that. And then also how it does correlate to what you're doing today, because we're going to talk about that. But I see it with you when we meet on Jeremy's group. And I love how you pour into all of us in the group. But the other part we have in common is I was the oldest of three children, but didn't have the ability to go to college either because my parents, I think my mom graduated high school, but my dad did GED through the military. So they were
Mm.
close with college. So I laugh and say, when I was growing up, I wanted to be a teacher, and so I wanted to be an elementary school teacher. So I jokingly say, I'm teaching today in my coaching. And so all the little girls I would have had when they were little, I get them now when they're these adults trying to figure out their mind and what to do and how to say yes to themselves.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I love it.
It's so, so, so much fun. So thank you for your service, first of all, because
Mm.
as being a military brat, I know the sacrifice you give, but also the sacrifice the family gives. And when I was dating, if I met somebody that was in the military, I was like, thank you very much for serving. I lived a life. I can't commit to that life. So I appreciate you and your family and what they did. You know, my dad did 3 tours in Vietnam. So
Mm.
it was a tough time because back then you got kicked off a base if your spouse was in war. You didn't get to stay on base. So we were back and forth to upstate New York. So the best part was I got to hang out with my granny for a really long time, and I love that. So I'm so so excited that we have those come on. And thank you for introducing us to Amy, because little Amy is
Mm.
here. We hold space for her, and we want to recognize her. And I always love to see how we grew up and how it comes into play today. I think it's really powerful. So, so
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yes.
So tell me, because, okay, let's talk about mindset, because you've had a lot of transitions recently in your life. You've done a big move, you know, and that's a lot of work on our mind and everything. So, how, you know, when we talk about mindset, people think it's woo woo. You know,
Mm.
people are like, oh, it's so woo woo. Even my son, I love my son, Nate. We were at his in laws for Thanksgiving, and his sister in law's boyfriend was sitting next to us. So he's talking about a movie he was doing. He's talking about his some stresses and stuff like that. He had anxiety. And I was like, hey, can I teach you something that just really quick to kind of just calm your mind down when you had that? And Nate goes, oh, here she goes. She's going to give you some woo woo. I'm like, oh my God. And funny story is, it's interesting to know you assume that your family and friends know and understand what you do. And circle around at Christmas time, he shared with me that he felt my Facebook page was very much, you know, it should be a business page. And we're talking about the family a lot, which I so appreciate his genuine conversation with me and saying,
Absolutely.
hey, mom, can we not have all of our stuff family on there? And I was like, I can't really change my page because that's what I am. However, I can honor what you're asking me. And so I created a whole different Facebook page. So if you come and see Ellen Sharenza. I'm not going to friend you unless you're family, so don't take it personally. But it's a way to hold that space for him as well, you know. And so the mindset at first, I was like, well, "What do you mean?" You know, and I was like, "Oh, let me hear what he's sharing." And I just thought it was so beautiful that he was sharing that with us. So tell
Absolutely.
us. I want you to share a little bit about the move, but tell us like going and make like leaving the corporate world, that's something else we have in common as well, and then coming into what our family and friends would think is woo woo. How did you embrace that? How did you know that was a path you wanted to do? Because everybody wants to create a business, and, you know, they always want, you know, what kind of business? Why did you want to become that quantum catalyst?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I love this question because it is these spaces where we go from where we think we're supposed to be into a space that when we commit to it, we find out who we really are meant to be. And so for me, that beautiful space, I did after the military 27 years of corporate America in top executive spaces where so many of the decisions that I made impacted thousands, if not tens of thousands of people and their families. And so as I held that leadership and I was authentically myself in the version that I was at that current space, because of course I've advanced quite far since then. But when I sat in that space, I could always feel this ache inside of me that even though I was doing great things and on paper I looked extremely successful, there was still something more to life that was meant to be mine. And so, as I sat in that space for so many years, many times I would look myself in the mirror in the morning and kind of sit there for a minute, you know, seeking that answer, whatever that pull was, and wherever I was supposed to be moving towards. And because I was so focused on the to do list, because I was busy being a mom of 8 beautiful children, because I was busy being that corporate America person and involved in my community and involved in church and all of those things, I didn't realize until I had gotten extremely separated from who Amy was. And so in that space, there was one morning where I literally looked in the mirror and I did not recognize her, and my feet froze to the cold tile and my body, it wasn't even a silence, it was more a void. And that void didn't have an answer in that moment. And it really took a moment for me to reflect inward to remind me of who I know I am, of that little girl that climbed to the top of the trees with no fear, of that young lady who did magnificent things in the military and held stories for these soldiers that fought for freedom that many of them will never be told, for walking alongside so many generals and supporting them in the missions and giving what so few are aware, the sacrifice, the truest respect that it deserves for the freedom that we all live in. And so all of those things culminated into this space. And when I realized that the answer was within me and wasn't at all in the external world, that's when life began all over for me. It was revealing and remembering who I am, and that it's so much bigger than even I could comprehend in my current consciousness in that space. And so, as I embraced that transition and said, all right, I'm going to do this something different. I was a solopreneur for about 6 years, like many of the individuals that are listening to this podcast, trying to figure out, okay, I can do this. I can do this. I know, you know, the clarity of who I am, of what my authority is, what my desires and my passions are to serve and pour into people. And it was a very long, long road. And so, through the story, to shorten it from there, my next step, I was in a room with a number of individuals that could really see my truth better than I could see it myself. And they could see the possibility that even I couldn't see in that space. And I was very grateful to them when they brought me on into their space with a very aligned mission and vision to my own company, which is Metamorphose Institute. And they brought me in as an executive partner into a space of transformation that Honestly, doing it in a team made all the difference. Colliding and compounding that amazing power with us made all the difference. And those visions and that movement just quantified exponentially. And so, just like what we do in Moxie as well, it's that compound power. It's not having to do everything and be everything, but simply shining in your own right and surrounding yourself in the powerful proximity of others that are doing the same thing. And that is the beauty of who I am and how I show up, because I love allowing and helping others to see their truth the same way that it was done for me. And in that, humanity will change. The greater good will be impacted, and we will create a new world understanding of people that show up in their truth with their genius as their operating system, and really truly making a difference in this amazing human experience that we all get to hold.
Oh my gosh, I took so many different notes, you guys. That was so incredible, Amy. And one of the things I wrote down is shine in your own light, shine in your own truth. And what you said too was like, I wrote down I call it armor. Like we put on so much armor for everybody else. We have if you're married, you have the wife armor. If you're caregiver armor, you have kids, you're the mother armor, you're the volunteer armor. All these armors we put on to the point that we start putting it on so much because we think we have to, because we don't show up for them. We think we're not going to be liked, right? We think, oh, we're selfish. When really what happens is you're being selfish to yourself because you're not honoring what you want. You're not honoring what's in front of us, but because we put these blinders on and we do these things that we think we have to do, we lose sight of who we are. And that picture, the visual of you standing in front of the mirror, it reminded me of Megan Trainor. I don't know if you ever heard the story she shared after she had her first child. She shared how she didn't feel good, comfortable in her own skin. And there's a kind of funny story after this. So she was going to a therapist, and the therapist said, I want you to stand in front of the mirror naked. And, most women are not comfortable standing in front of the mirror at all with just no shirt on, let alone being completely naked. And so she's
Right.
like, oh my gosh. She goes, and I want you to stand back. Don't be up front. Stand back and see your whole body. And I want you to find something you love about yourself. And I think she said it took her like 2 weeks or so before she really looked in the mirror and was like, oh my gosh, that role is because I just had a child, and this is from the leftover weight from birthing this beautiful boy. I think it's a boy. So she was sharing that, and then she was sharing about the little things, and it was around the time that I heard it. Every time I share the story, it reminds me of when my son passed. It's gonna be almost 4 years ago this July. But I
Mhm.
remember about, I don't know, maybe about a year after he passed, I had like this. I was looking in the mirror. I don't put a lot of makeup on. I had like these little wrinkles by my eyes. I'm like, what the heck is that? And then I sat there and I was like, what is that from? And I'm like, those are the tears you cried because you lost a child. Pearl, give yourself a freaking break. I mean, I don't care
Mm.
about wrinkles, but because the other plus side to that is that I also say to myself, I'm 61 years young. I'm not old. I'm young. And I think about it reminds me of the life I have, because when I think about my mom looking in the mirror at 61 years old, she looks so different than I do. She wore
Mm.
all the armors that she wore on her face.
Mhm.
And so when you said that, looking at paper, you realize you want to be more. Like you're looking at everything you were on that piece of paper, want to be more. That's what I want everybody to take from this is like, you're more than what you write down on the piece of paper. Because first of all and foremost, when you come here, it's decided when you're going to be born. It's decided when you're going to leave this world. So that dash is, Lauren Reidinger and J.R. Reidinger always talked about when I've gone to events with them. It's for you to decide how you're going to live. Now, the dash has already been decided how you're going to live. And if you think you're going to go off a different way, it's going to ricochet you right back on course, because that's not how you were supposed to do it. We think, we let our mind tell us, oh, you can do it better. But really, if we just listen to the intuitive part, like you share, we'll
Mm.
be like, that's not better. Right. And so you said something about the answer within. We have the answer within, but we choose to let all the noise around us not let us hear it. And
Exactly.
so you also said the to-do list. And so I want to talk about noise and to-do list a second, because we do become our to-do list. And which is why when I created our Shiro method, which stands for strong, happy, empowered, radiant, and original self, I wanted to address the to-do list. I want to address it differently in that the not to do list. And you said in the session that I did on Moxie, what it talked about, you have this joy. We do a joy list, and that's a whole nother episode we'll talk about. But you do a list on what brings you joy, but we dig deep. Once we do that part of the process in the Shiro method, then we go to the not to do list. So get rid of the to do list because there's things you have to stop doing, which includes not listening to your mind, not listening
Right.
to what's in front of you, not seeing it, paying attention. And the to do list is to stop giving yourself negative self talk, stop letting other people get into your brain, right? So that's hard stuff. Let's just admit.
Yeah.
If you've not done that and you're a people pleaser like I was, that stuff's hard to do. It
Hmm.
becomes very difficult because, again, part of our brain goes, well, you should be doing that because you're selfish. You don't think, you don't care, right? And so now I've done so much work that when Betsy, I call her, shows up, I'm like, yeah, you're not talking to me right now. I'm doing this shit, whether you like it or not. So we're going, girlfriend. But so what I want to know is like when you work with your clients and they come in to you and they're struggling with that, you see somebody like you and I both have had clients that come in. And again, like we talk about the woo woo part and all that.
Yes.
How do you guide them? Because like you shared, you guide people to understand the self mastery, the energetic alignment. How do you do that, especially if you've got somebody who's like going, I want to come test it out with my toe in the water. I'm not sure. How do you help them embrace the process that you work them through?
Absolutely. So that is a beautiful space because, of course, as human beings, we want immediate gratification. Like we want the answer right now. Heaven forbid doing the work. And I don't call it hard work, I call it heart work. And in that space, what I do with someone that comes in is first I celebrate them. I ask them questions about what about your life excites you, right? What are you so proud of? What are the things that have truly made you the person that you are? And in listening to them and really giving an acknowledgement to who they are first and foremost, I believe that's the greatest human need is to be heard, seen, loved, and acknowledged. So I offer that right off the bat, sincerely and genuinely, because that's how I would want somebody to treat me. And then we usually will ask some very honest questions going into the spaces in their life that maybe is a little out of alignment because you are a great person wherever you are in the space that you're at. Your life is probably working in 7 out of 10 areas, but there's a space that doesn't fully fit you anymore. So we dive into that together and just ask a couple of questions that allow us to go into that space and figure out what that is. And from there, create a custom whether you want to dabble for a couple of days and figure out, all right, does this Amy girl even know what she's talking about? How long has she been in the industry? Is she simply blowing smoke up my pipes like all of the other false promises in the personal development world? And so I usually get an understanding of what their expectations are. What are you here for? Did you simply want to connect? Is there something short term that you'd like to even see if it's aligned to who you are authentically? Or are you really truly seeking that permanent transformation, that reprogramming, that software upgrade of your operating system so that you can scale yourself into quantum spaces? And so from there, it all depends on who it is that's there with me, and I can very confidently say that those numbers are up in the 5 figures of souls that I've been able and blessed to pour into and really truly ignite them into that space without force, no expectation of becoming anything. We simply reveal and remember the greatness that's always been inside of them. Most times it simply takes somebody who knows how to reveal it, who knows how to find it, who knows how to uncover it and celebrate them in that space. And most of my clients will say, I didn't have to try harder. I simply stopped carrying what wasn't mine anymore. And that space launches us into so much beautiful, effortless truth that comes with ease because it is who we are. It's who we've always been. And it's when we take off that armor, like you talk about, or those masks, that so many carry for so long, those identity tags, that gross stuff, that we step into clarity and confidence and really truly standing in our own power.
I I love that. Stop carrying what isn't mine anymore. That's so cool. And I wrote down honest versus being, being in alignment. Like, because the heart work, it's hard work, but it's so good for your heart.
Yes,
It's such a need for your heart. And it's interesting because like when people say the woo, I'm like, but if you buy a little more woo woo in your life, you'll be less at the doctors, you'll be less at the pharmacist, you'll be less,
exactly.
it was so funny because last week my husband had an event to do, and it was his first vendor event ever, and he puts posts in the ground for realtors when they put a house on the market.
Mm,
So
okay.
we were standing there. I was helping him with it, and so we'd have realtors would walk up and they go, "Oh yeah, I buy my post." I'm like, "Oh, you do? So you buy it on Amazon? Uh-huh. So is it 7 foot? No." I said, "So what do you do? So when you're going to install your own sign, how are you making your sales call?" And they look at me like, I'm like, well, think about it. You're spending at least a half hour to drive there, minimum in this area. You're spending at least probably another 20 minutes getting it all level if you're making sure it's level. And then I point to the sign on the little pull-up banner he has. It shows the realtor who signs on the ground. I'm like, it could possibly end up looking like that if you don't do it right. I said, and then you got to go back and take the sign down. I go, but what happens as you grow and you get more business? That's a lot of signs you're doing and installing. So it was a great new, like that whole mindset, like looking at your mind. You don't have your mind aligned with what you want to do, and my husband's like, you're so good at this. I go, dear, it's called the mindset. We got to get them in their mindset, why they need to work with you, and so it was really, really so much fun. Like this, like you called it, that software upgrade that they got in like 2 minutes with me, it was really,
Right.
really cool. Yeah. I think this is I love that we're both aligned in different, in helping people with the mindset. I think for me, I look back, like I think that's the biggest thing that we missed during the shutdown is we didn't make sure that our young kids got help with the mindset, and so I'm glad there's more people like you and I in the world so we can start reaching out, making more contacts with that. But I want to bring it to one of the things we like to talk about on here is how do you bridge like your personal self-care? Because we take in a lot of people's stuff. And I know you, and that's why I want to ask this question. We take in a lot of people's stuff, right? And so the energy of the people's stuff that we take in, and if you're listening to us, we don't mind taking it in, but we have to process it out of ourselves too. Because if we take in all your stuff, then our stuff, I kind of like equate it to Chat GPT, right? People go, "Oh, I use AI for this." I'm like, could you stop and think about it for a second? If I take Amy stuff, I take Pearl stuff, I take Sue Ann stuff, and I put it in there, I'm getting a bowl of soup. So when I ask for help, I'm getting everybody's stuff instead of what I want. And they look at me, they go, "Oh, I never thought about it that way." I'm like, "Yeah, so stop asking Chat GPT for mental health help because it's not a therapist. And it's going to tell you everybody else's crap."
Mhm.
So, Amy, how do you do that for yourself? How do you process like you work with clients, you got to process so Amy can get back to Amy and then also show up for her family. How do you do that? How do you bridge your business and your self-care? How do you separate them but also honor each of them?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that because it really truly was that space that allowed me to serve my clients better when I prioritized me first. And so before I even start my day, I sit in a space of meditation, diving into my own visualizations of my desires, my thoughts, and I really truly assure that my vibration for the day is plugged into me first and foremost. And that is aligned to my source as well. And so, in that space, as I'm sitting with me, and I know that I'm plugged into the infinite that's available to us all, before I go into my meetings with my clients, with any conversations that I have, which is really my lifestyle. I don't consider who I am and my work two different things. This is who I am every room that I'm in, no matter what I'm doing. Like you said, it's like it's not a separation of family and work. It just all is, right? And so, but before I go into those meetings, I personally set an intention that in that space, I am serving as a vessel for my source to work through me. And so it's not Amy that's pouring into these people. It's the energy, the understanding, and the wisdom that comes through me in full surrender to really, truly, authentically serve that individual so that it isn't compromised with my own beliefs, my own thought systems, all of those things. And what I find when I do that is at the end of whatever the call was, the conversation was, I then sit in a space of gratitude for however I served, but also in a space of observation of what did I see so that I can put closure on that event before I move into the next conversation or Amy's world or jumping into the family. And by having those clear spaces of clarity at the beginning and the end for me is what allows me to just go in that natural, effortless flow of who I am and how I show up in all of the different personalities, relationships, people, experiences, and opportunities that get presented to me in a day.
Thank you for sharing that because that's so important to understand how we process, how we work, and it's good for like the listeners and our clients to see and hear that we hold a space and we're not just showing up. Like I got asked this morning at a meeting I was like, what do people not understand about your business? And what I tell them is that I'm not every other coach. Like you can go to there's many people that are call themselves life coaches out there. And I said, I always ask my clients before I start with them, why me? Like, what about me? Because I want to make sure that what they see is truly what they're going to get and they
Mm.
understand. And 9 times out of 10, they're like, well, I follow you online. I see what you're doing online. Hence what my son was saying. I everything I see you do, you're authentic. And I'm like, well, isn't other coaches you work with authentic? And as I was early in my coaching degree, they're like, no, like so and so would tell me that they do this, but then I see them out and they're out doing that. I'm like, oh no, no, girlfriend. What you see is what you get with me. I don't put I if I had to figure out who I'm acting for, I'd be lost. So no, 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 I'm not that person. And so that's why we're also doing our summit in May. On May 14th, that those that are listening, we have a Say Yes to You and Your Business Summit because we do wear the armors that we've been talking about. We do wear different armors and there is a way to bridge them together and there's a way to honor both of them and give yourself time away. Like one of our panels is talking about they're coming Natalie, Natalie. So we have a panel of coaches that are helping in the healthcare area. So we have somebody who is menopause coach, somebody who's a autoimmune
Mm.
coach, somebody who is a health coach, and then we have Natalie, who's our financial planner, right? And people go, a financial planner, I go, yes, because here's the deal. Natalie is going through being a caregiver right now. And I had a great conversation with her and she shared, had I not put the things in place, I wouldn't be able to take the time that I need to
Right.
financially be able to be there for my mom because I would have been worried about my income. So autoimmune and menopause and these caregivers, these things pop up in our world. We have to be able to be prepared for it. So they bridge together because you have your finances set. You can take the time off to honor your health, honor your loved ones, whatever that is. And so that's what we're doing in May. And it's going to be a lot of fun. So if you're listening to us, you can grab the link down below. You can go to wsliving.com for more information. But we have tickets available and you're going to have to come. I'm sorry, ladies. It's a lot of fun and your best dressed PJs that represent your business. So it's going to be a blast. And so what you said there, Amy, is totally what our goal is to honor the energy that we give our clients, but also honor the energy, how we show up for that and
Mm.
not to forget that we have to do hard work for ourselves as well. So I love that you shared that with us. So I want everybody to find you, Amy. So tell everybody, how do they find you? How do they reach out to you? We'll put everything in the show notes. So if you're driving, don't worry, go back and read the show notes or come watch us on YouTube and like and subscribe that below as well. So tell us how we reach you, Amy.
Absolutely. So I am on Facebook and I am in LinkedIn underneath my full name, Ami Maikoski, as you will see it in the notes below, as well as my website. It is getting updated currently, so if it doesn't happen to be up, it's my tech team doing all of their magic, bringing it into that space. And I certainly am so grateful for this amazing opportunity with you, Pearl. You are such a phenomenal warrior and have blessed so many individuals that I am humbled to be in this space because identity is really where it all starts. And only when we can be ourselves can we truly be more of what the world is looking for because it's that truth that matters.
Thank you for that. I appreciate appreciate that. I will put everything in the show down below and get ready to follow you too. And so, okay, so I've already told Amy what we're going to do here in a second. Okay, so I have these cards. They're called Better Questions, Better Life. I do not get paid for them, ladies and gentlemen. So if you want to go betterquestionsbetterlife.com, you can go find them. But I'm going to shuffle. Amy, you're going to tell me when to stop shuffling, and we're going to have you answer one of the cards. So here we go. Tell me when to stop.
Stop.
Okay, so Amy's card says, oh, this is a good one. I already know it. What am I worth?
Woo! I love that. Oh my goodness. I am of infinite worth. There is no container that will ever hold the capacity of who I am and what I have the ability to give, share, and pour into others.
I love that. And I'm going to answer it because I'm going to say I'm worth everything I give and I'm worth what I don't want to give too. So
Mm.
I just love that card. That's a great card. It was so much fun having you on the show, Amy. And I know our listeners are going to have a blast following you. Go out and reach out to Amy, like and subscribe everything she's put out for her as well. Connect with her online. And I just want to remind everybody that we come into this world, we have a rough oyster of a shell. That shell is tough. We got to open up and do some work. But like Amy said, when you do the heart work, when you open up inside, you're going to go and you're going to find your inner pearl to greatness. So I hope today you go out to become stronger, happier, empowered, radiant, and original oyster you're supposed to be. Have a great day. Hey everybody, I am so excited to have had Kathy on today. We had some after conversation too. It was really, really cool. She's got some great projects coming up. So, it's like she said, why not put the best-selling author title at the end of your name? So what are you waiting for? Reach out to her. Your story matters. You can empower somebody and change somebody's life just with your story. Stop holding it within and get it out to the world. I hope you have a great day and thanks again. And remember, wsliving.com is where you want to go visit us. Have a great day. Okay, if you didn't get a lot of woo woo, as people call it, out of that last episode, we need to talk. Anyways, I just want you to know, like, how are you heart aligned? Amy was so amazing in reminding us that information, and I want to remind you about that too. Aligning, releasing your armors, stop writing on a piece of paper all the things you think you need to be. You are not the piece of paper, you are not the armors. You are the original person you're supposed to be, and stop listening to everybody else and start listening to what's inside and what's aligned. And if you're struggling with that, I want you to know you can always book a free joy clarity call with me. It's called a Say Yes to Your Life call. Just go to wsliving.com. That's wsliving.com. You can book that call or you can come to our summit May 14th here in Riverview, Florida. We're going to have an amazing day. Come in your PJs and makeup is optional. And again, wsliving.com to get all that information. I think you guys are amazing and have an awesome day.
All clean. Why did